The Frank G. Zarb School of Business and WRHU-FM Radio Hofstra University invite you inside the Z-Suite.
Hello, I'm Janet Lenihan, Dean of the Frank G. Zarb School of Business at Hofstra University. Welcome to Inside the Z-Suite, where we explore leadership insights and timely topics with executives shaping the future of business. Today, we're focusing on industry-wide trends and changes in the accounting profession and how those at the helm of some of our nation's largest firms are redefining success, driving innovation, and inspiring the next generation to lead with purpose. Joining me is Carin Giuliante, Chair and Chief Executive Officer of Deloitte Tax. With over 30 years of experience in accounting, law, and tax strategy, Carin has built her career around growth and purpose-driven leadership. A proud Hofstra alumna, Carin earned both her bachelor's degree in accounting and her Juris Doctor at Hofstra before completing her master's in taxation at NYU School of Law. Since joining Deloitte in 1992, she has held numerous leadership roles, including managing partner of the East Region Tax Practice and a member of Deloitte's U.S. Board of Directors before assuming her current role in 23. Under her leadership, Deloitte Tax has enhanced its digital and fiduciary tax capabilities, promoted talent development, and advocated for greater tech fluency across the profession. Carin, welcome inside the Z-Suite.
Thanks so much for having me, Janet. It is great to be back with you on campus.
We are thrilled to have you. So, Carin, your journey began right here at Hofstra, studying both accounting and law. What ultimately made you choose tax? And really, what early experiences do you feel really helped you develop the confidence and leadership skills that you have today?
So as you said, I started my career as an accounting undergrad. Somewhere along the way, I decided that I wanted to go to law school, and the original intention was for me to really combine what I had done from an undergraduate accounting perspective with a law degree and specialize in tax law and go work at one of those big New York law firms. But after my first year of law school internships are kind of scarce for 1Ls. I ended up at Deloitte in New York City working in the tax department. And I had an amazing experience. It was a great opportunity. I got to do all sorts of different types of tax work, and I worked with some amazing people. And what stood out to me the most was that I saw people at Deloitte who both had amazing careers and full family lives, and that was really important to me. So 30 years and 3 kids later, I can 100% say with certainty I made the right career choice. And over my career, I've had the opportunity to work across different parts of tax and in many different industries. So early on, as many of our professionals are when they start with us, I was a generalist and I would volunteer for whatever project arose. But after a while, I started to specialize, and that was a bit of a turning point for me in terms of developing my confidence. I realized if you're good at something, you need to let people know it. Something I talk about today is owning your greatness. You really don't need to be afraid to speak up. You don't need to be afraid to showcase your skills. And you really should not be afraid to tell people what gives you energy. And once I did that, it really paved the way for me to work on engagements where I was able to then also build my leadership skills. And I think that's ultimately why I ended up where I am today.
I love that. Own your greatness. What an important message. I mean, especially for women.
Owning your greatness is something that I speak about a lot when I'm out on the road talking to different groups of professionals. And I think we all need to really be comfortable with talking about what makes us different and what makes us special. I know lots of folks are sometimes a little bit reticent to talk about the things that they do well because it's viewed as being a little bit like bragging. But I think in a professional context done the right way, talking about what you do well and perhaps also what you'd like to do more of because you need to improve is incredibly important. And so I always counsel people that if done the right way, it's incredibly important. The other thing that's important when you're developing your career in that way is to think about who else can talk about your greatness. And we talk a lot about coaches and mentors and sponsors. In this regard, I think sponsors are the most important. It's that person who helps you from a career perspective get your voice in the room, maybe talks about you when you're not there, pounds the table for you when you're not in the meeting, or perhaps brings you into the meeting. We're always encouraging our professionals, regardless of what level they are in the organization, to bring someone younger with you, bring them into the meeting, give them the opportunity to speak, prompt them a little bit so that they can shine, just like you were given the opportunity most likely earlier in your career. So it's been impactful for me. I had great mentors and sponsors early in my career. That's why I stayed at Deloitte for the entirety of my career. And I like to pay it forward, and I ask everyone else to do the same.
That is fantastic. And I think if more leaders would do things like that, it would actually make the next generation of leaders that much better and that much stronger. I want to focus a little bit more on the accounting profession and just the amount of change that has been happening in the profession. I mean, I think about when you first started to where we are today. What's the current state of the accounting profession? What changes have you seen? What excites you about the future?
Absolutely. We are certainly in the midst of some exciting changes to the accounting profession. And when I look back, when I started my career, it was all about paperwork papers, paper filings, and dare I say 10 keys. One of my first client experiences had me working in the basement of a building in New York City, which as I remember it, I'm not sure if this is actually true, but I feel like it had no air conditioning. And we just spent what felt like months on end reviewing manual work papers.
And probably very humid in the paper stuck together, right, as you're ticking and tying.
Right, with a red pencil, right? So a rite of passage for sure. But fortunately, I think for today's entry-level accounting professionals, the rite of passage is a little bit improved from where it was. But what really excites me right now is the power of technology to change the profession. Technology's long been a catalyst to propel, advance, and evolve the way we do business in the accounting profession. And like I said, I've seen many, many changes over the last 30 years, from paperwork papers to computers that were too heavy to carry around and, to where we are now with everything being digital. And so it's really more true than it's ever been. But when you look at where we are today, the emergence of AI, both generative and agentic AI, are really the next game changer for tax, as it is for many areas in business, but for good reason. So I think leveraging those technological advances like AI are going to free our accountants up from that time-intensive task, like the data wrangling, right, that work paper creation that nobody really loves, but we all spend a lot of time on, to really focus on technical development and that broader, more complex work where we can really help our tax professionals deliver greater insights and value to our clients. And it's much more fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. The rapid pace of change is dizzying, really.
It is.
Before we delve a little bit more into AI, you said something in terms of what attracted you to Deloitte that summer when you were in L1, was really recognizing how people were balancing what oftentimes can be competing roles between work and home, right?
That's right.
And years ago, we used to talk about work-life balance. And I think we've emerged to say, well, it's not really balance, but it's how do you fuse these two domains together? Yeah. And I love that you talk a lot about being a proud working mom, CEO, balancing and infusing them both together. Talk a little bit about what strategies have worked for you, and what strategies do you recommend for working parents to help make that balance work
sure.
well?
So I'm definitely a proud working mom, although I am a bit of an empty nester at the moment, at least until next week when my youngest comes home from college break. The most important strategy I've always found is being honest and transparent about your commitments, whatever they might be. Because I think when you bring your authentic self to work and you let your team know that you have something important coming up, whether it's family or otherwise, it really makes all the difference. And then as a leader, when you model that behavior, the rest of the team then feels more comfortable to do the same thing for themselves. It really is important to do this across all of the teams that we work on, because being part of a cohesive team and a team that has each other's back is crucial. Client service is an incredibly demanding business. You need to be potentially on all the time, right? When a client issue arises, you need to be there to solve it. So the team element is incredibly important. And so I've been really fortunate to work with some amazing people over my career. I still work with amazing people today, and I really do think that makes all the difference. Are you going to make every class party? Are you going to get to every sporting practice? Probably not. I feel really confident that you can be there for the moments that matter. I've been able to do that over my career. I talk about it, as you said, all the time. It's super important to me. The other thing I think it allows us to do as working parents is set that example for our children, that it's okay to have both. It's okay to have a family life and then a work life and figure out how to meld those two together. I agree, balance is not the word we use anymore, but it's definitely a balancing act, right? You have to figure out at any given moment in time sort of which one is rising to the top. It never goes away, right? No matter what stage of parenthood you're in. I mean, last night, my kids are all adult-ish, right? But I was on a work Zoom last night, and at the same time, while I'm trying to, stay focused on the call that I'm on, all three of my children are texting me with what they thought was the most urgent problem in the world. And when I finally got to the messages post-Zoom, it really wasn't all that important. But to them it was, and so we figure it out. Another funny story, when I took over this role as CEO of Deloitte Tax, I was just about to send my youngest Grace off to college in Tuscaloosa. And so one of the things that I said was non-negotiable to me, even though I was transitioning into a new role and there was quite a bit going on, was that move-in was something that I was not going to miss. And so, that 1,000-mile ride to Tuscaloosa, right, the move-in, can't swear that I didn't take a call or two on the way down, but it was such a special time. And that twice-a-year trip now back and forth is something that we really look forward to. So you just have to figure out how to make it work. If you're honest and transparent, I found across my whole career that you can make it work.
I love how you talk about leaders set the tone. And I can think back in my career. I mean, I remember literally giving birth and being expected to be on a work call that next day. We were afraid as women to be transparent and to stand up. And going back to your earlier, which I love, philosophy of owning your greatness, right? To step up and say, no, I'm going to go to move-in because I add a lot of value, right, to this company, but I also add a lot of value to my family life, and I need to make sure that I'm doing both.
Exactly.
So it's so important that leaders set that tone because it gives
is.
everybody else the ability then to follow suit. We're seeing a lot of changes. What's old is new again, right? A lot of states are going back to the 120 credits with 2 years of experience, a lot of changes in the profession, and we're seeing huge growth in terms of counting majors, but I know as a profession, there's still a lot of emphasis on talent recruitment and talent management. And so as the profession continues to adapt to these workplace changes and technological changes that you talked about, how do you see it evolving from here?
We're very focused right now on what the impact of technology is going to be on the profession. And I think for our younger professionals, right, to really succeed in the age of AI, they need to be excited by the opportunity that the technology creates. And they need to be invested in not just becoming technically fluid, whether it's technical or accounting technical, but they need to become tech fluid. They need to become fluent in the technology. And it's a really exciting new frontier. And the things we're doing now, I think, in the profession in terms of technological evolution are going to change the profession for the next 5, 10, maybe even 20 years. A few weeks ago, before the holidays, I was out on the West Coast at our strategic tax conference. I had the opportunity to spend meaningful time with many of our clients, got the opportunity to hear from them firsthand about how they're feeling about the changes that are coming along with technology. And I would say the vast majority of them, if not all, really recognize the urgency and the importance of embracing new technology. So maybe AI, but also automation, process digitization, data analytics, all of that's important. The other part that we can't lose sight of is that they equally believe in the need to invest in talent and leadership development. That's going to become even more important as the technology does more of sort of the entry-level tasks. So think about things like coaching, growth mindset, succession planning, how do you build resilience? All of those are incredibly important. And so I think from a profession perspective, our clients' priorities align with our own and really highlight a shared vision, the need to combine technology and human capability to create what will be a stronger, smarter, and more adaptive tax profession.
So, there's this adage, you're not going to lose your job to AI, you're going to lose your job to the person who knows how to leverage AI.
Exactly right.
How can students prepare for those changes? So you were saying, they're not doing the paper kind of work products anymore, and almost the onboarding is going to be vastly different from, say, decades ago.
Vastly different. So I would say two things. One, to the accounting student, I would say be intellectually curious. Read everything you can get your hands on, listen to the podcasts, play around with the technology. There's so much out there, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, or all of the firms are developing their own, sort of bespoke technology, but really get to know how to use it. I think that's incredibly important. Then when you get to wherever you land from a professional perspective, I think our focus really is, as you said, on really changing how we train our folks when they come in the door. Gone are the days where you learn how to be a tax professional by doing a tax return. You're going to learn how to become a tax professional by reviewing a tax return. And I'm actually really excited by that because I think it really gives us the opportunity to accelerate our younger professionals' learning to get to that value add where they can become those trusted advisors to their clients much more quickly. But it's a whole shift from a learning and development perspective.
Yeah, it's so important because that intuition that you have when you look at a tax return and you see a number and you know what's behind the number, that allows you then to really think more deeply about strategies that you might be able to recommend to your client.
That's right. And I would even say that the way we've been preparing tax returns, which was kind of between a hybrid of sort of the individual preparing the returns, but very much aided by technology, maybe took away a bit of the ability to learn how to be technical. And I think now sort of going that extra step and saying, okay, well, maybe perhaps the technology is going to do even more of the data manipulation or the tax return preparation. So you really do need to be curious. You really do need to learn what the laws are. You need to learn your client's business at a much earlier age. And like I said, I think we will have much better tax professionals as a result.
Yeah, it's actually really exciting.
I think it is.
Wonderful. All these changes, as we said earlier, just really happening at a dizzying pace. And, I often think back, we used to talk about change management as if it was this like static one-time thing. And now it has to be part of the DNA, what you do every day in your organization. I think there's never been a time that the saying, the only one true constant thing is change, than today. That can result in employees feeling uncomfortable and uneasy. Kind of how do you help motivate your workforce so that they can adapt and have that technology expertise that you're looking for?
I think it could be a little bit daunting, not just for tax professionals, but I think it could also be a little bit daunting for the leaders. We are dealing with so much as a profession and as a society. So I think navigating those complex and shifting global regulations, which are evolving right at the same time our technologies are evolving, it really puts pressure right on tax departments and tax professionals worldwide. We're all in a state of transition. There's constant change, as you said, that can be incredibly daunting. And so we really need to be committed as a profession to showing up and really helping our clients solve their issues. We need to use the tools and technologies that are available, but we also need to adapt and evolve because we don't really have a choice, because if we don't figure out how to disrupt ourselves, someone else is going to come in and disrupt the profession, and that's incredibly important. It goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. It's about combining innovation with learning and development. And I think if you can get that balance right, it takes some of the mystery away. Maybe it makes it a little bit less daunting for folks. So we're really focused on keeping our teams motivated and confident by making sure we're offering the right training. We have access to tools, access to technologies, including those transformative technologies. Folks are excited to use them. So we need to get them out into the ether. And I think that's going to help us all adapt and continue to change as things move forward.
It's fascinating, too. The technology has also driven workforce changes in how we work, in the ways in which we work. So the psychological contract between the employee and the organization is much different now than it was decades ago. So talk a little bit more about how you're leveraging the digital tools for hybrid work arrangements and other types of ways that you can help your employees, going back to that fusion, but also how are you using those tools to help develop them for those leadership roles that are going to be so critical?
Yeah, and what do they need to do sort of outside the tools? Because hybrid work, as you said, and digital tools, they definitely change how we connect. And at Deloitte, we've got a hybrid work model. We don't require folks to be in the office 5 days a week, and I think most firms are doing the same. There's a lot of benefit to that because through a hybrid model, you can be exposed to more people. You could be exposed to new opportunities you might not have previously had. So, when you can create a virtual team, you can make sure that the best person with the best skills, right, is available for the opportunity, even if maybe they don't live in the same geography where the client sits. And so that opens up a world of possibility for our tax professionals. But then, like you said, you add to the mix these new digital tools that are allowing our people to be more efficient, frees up the time, as we were talking about, to focus on higher level strategy and gets them positioned earlier for those leadership roles. What we can't lose sight of, regardless of how we're connecting, whether it's in person or virtually, one of the most important requirements for being a good leader is that ability to connect on a personal level. We're in a relationship business. So I had a light bulb moment early in my career, and as I look back, it probably shouldn't have been a light bulb moment. At one point, I figured out it wasn't all about just putting your head down, working hard, getting the deliverables out. It was really about taking the time to invest in networking. It was about taking the time to invest in building relationships, whether it's a cup of coffee in person, maybe it's over Zoom, maybe it's going to a client's social hour. I really can't stress enough how important it is to really get to know the people you're working with, both on a professional and a personal level. My team and I travel quite a bit, and we've added something to the routine lately. So we get up super early and we go out and walk together. And so we get a little bit of exercise, which is important. We might get a little bit of work done, get an early jump on the day. But the best part of it is we get to spend time connecting as people, and that's really priceless. And that's what we can't lose in a hybrid and a digital environment.
Absolutely right. Organization culture matters.
It does.
I love that you're doing that, finding ways to connect. What are some of the other things that you think about in nurturing the culture, recognizing that people really want that hybrid work arrangement and the fact that it actually can be very beneficial as a talent strategy? Because as you said, talent now is very mobile. And so you can source talent from all over the world. Yet you still want to try to build and nurture that really strong culture.
We really do. I think nurturing the culture is important. We've also found that there is a difference in terms of professional development and success in your career that is directly impacted by your ability to work in person some of the time. And so there is a direct correlation with how well people perform to their ability to be in the office and build those personal relationships. I think that will become even more important as we become more reliant on the technology for some of the day-to-day tasks, because we say all the time we are an apprenticeship type business. We learn by watching. So you need to be with your teams, you need to be with your clients, and you need to figure out how to blend those two together. We spent a couple of years working during COVID pretty much entirely remotely. And there was a big learning curve for folks to catch up when we got back to hybrid. So we're trying to keep the right balance. So a little bit of both. We say being together when it matters is what's important.
People want those connections.
They do.
It makes a difference. I mean, so many relationships are built at work.
That's right.
It does really require you to be together for times when, it makes sense.
It does. Sometimes work friends are the best friends.
Something comes out very clear in terms of your leadership, skill, and I would say philosophy, and that's around purposeful leadership. And it's clear that it's something that is not just a buzzword for you, it's really a key differentiator for you as a leader. What does that look like in practice for you?
Sure. It's always been important for me. I think for you to be successful at what you do, you need to find your purpose. And we talk about purpose in the work we do. We talk about purpose in our communities, and we talk about purpose personally. The most successful professionals have the most successful careers when you can figure out how to blend the three of those together. And so it's incredibly important. And it's one of those things that you can model as a leader to the rest of your team, which is why we talk about it quite a bit at Deloitte. We talk about our 3 Ps, people, purpose, and possibility. That's how we think about it. But it's also at the core of the accounting profession. The work we do in accounting is really the foundation for transparency, honesty, and credibility in our free market system. And it sounds maybe a little corny. We do play an essential role in society, and we do serve the public interest by fostering that compliance with those legal and regulatory requirements. Incredibly important. And it's also incredibly important that we have high ethical and professional standards and expect nothing less from each one of our professionals. And when you put all of that together, accounting really offers amazing opportunities for folks to learn and grow and make an impact that's important to them in nearly any sector, any geography they want to work in any type of organization. So it might be a government agency, maybe it's small businesses or what you're interested in, high net worth professionals, multinational corporations, maybe not-for-profits or even academic institutions. You can choose your path where you want to make an impact, and I think that's incredibly important. We're in a time of great volatility, not just in the business world, but in the world in general. You think about careers and what's to come. I really do think tax is going to continue to offer a dynamic career path that I hope today's accounting professionals are going to continue to embrace. We really love what we're seeing in terms of the increase in interest again in the profession. And I hope some of that has to do with what we're doing around AI and some of the technological advances.
No doubt about it. Yeah. And the numbers really bear that out. You know, we're seeing it across all of our campuses. It's tremendous to see reinvigoration of the profession for sure. I want to just say a little bit more about leadership. There's no doubt that the values and the practices leaders champion today will help define the culture and the legacy of the profession moving forward. And you've given us a lot of great examples of how that happens. What's your hope for leaders in the profession to continue to build that legacy and create that culture that will drive the next generation of accounting professionals?
So for me personally, what I want to see is the accounting profession continue to play the pivotal role it's played in terms of trust in society. And for this to happen, like I said, we need to continue to attract talented individuals to the profession. I want to continue to see the accounting profession be a place where people can picture themselves having a career and a future where they can thrive, just like I was able to picture myself 30 some odd years ago. I could see myself having a future at Deloitte. And so that's what I hope for everybody. I want the profession to be one that continues to challenge and inspire. I want it to be a profession that compels innovation, right, as we work with our clients to tackle those tough issues. And for me, one of the things I'm most proud of in the work that we're doing at Deloitte is what we're doing around what we call service delivery transformation. So all the efforts efforts that are underway to really transform how we do tax. So we're making significant and strategic investments in developing both tax technology, but also deeper technical capabilities in our professionals to really better equip them to continue to serve our clients with distinction. And I think that if we're successful, not only are we going to change the way we work, we'll change the type of work accounting professionals are going to do going forward. And for me, that would be an incredibly impactful legacy.
The way you describe it, it shows how exciting the field is. I could keep asking you a question, but it's that time in our interview where we ask all of our guests on Inside the Z-Suite some fun questions for you to answer off the top of your head. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. If you could trade places with anyone or anything, who or what would it be?
I think if I could trade places with anyone, I think I would like to go back and do college over. I might trade places with my daughter. She is having the time of her life down at a big SEC football school. And I think if I went there, I would have much more fun than she's having. I don't think I would miss an event. I would do it differently if I went back to college.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite household chore?
Oh, I would say my favorite household chore is throwing things away.
That's great.
Just get rid of the clutter. Yeah.
All right. What's your least favorite?
Absolutely folding the laundry. Although I have become, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, a little bit adept at doing that on conference calls that don't require video.
Multitasking.
That's right.
Very important. Carin, I feel like you've already given us such great advice. There's a lot of students that'll be listening in our audience. And so could you help them think about what's the key to success?
I think the key to success really in today's day and age is what I said before. You need to be curious. You need to be open to new things. You need to challenge whatever status quo you have in your head. There are so many possibilities in the profession. When you look at, and I'll speak from my experience, right, at Deloitte, when you look at what we do, not just in tax and not just in accounting and assurance, but also in consulting services, a career in the accounting profession could be anything. It might be working as an auditor. It might be working as sort of a tax consultant, but it could be a million other things. Possibilities are limitless. And so don't think that there is one path for you to take when you graduate as an accounting student. Keep your eyes open, learn as much as you can, soak up every bit of information, and I think you'll find a great career.
It's so true, right? Careers are not always linear.
They are not.
Absolutely. Carin, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing all your great insights, not only into the field and the profession, but also into leadership and to making a successful career. Your story really does remind us that progress happens when leaders lean into change. As always, I also want to thank our producer, Adrian Stoller, WRHU audio engineer, John Mullen. You can tune in weekly on WRHU 88.7 FM or find Inside the Z-Suite wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about the show and the Zarb School of Business, visit hofstra.edu/business. Until next time, I'm Janet Lenihan from Inside the Z-Suite.